Since I've had a few nice comments from people about my game art, I've decided to show you the process of how I draw my assets. I'm by no means an artist, but if you're like me and you want to create your own art for your games, then hopefully this will help. You may be doing this because you want your game to be as original as possible, or you're a little bit of a cheapskate like me. Online game assets can also be limiting. If you pick one that doesn't have something you need, you may end up introducing inconsistent art into your game, and this will draw people's attention away from what you want them to be looking at. All you need to start drawing your own similar game art to ShieldMaidens is a cheap drawing pad and software that allows you to draw. So for this, I'm using a Hawaiian H420, which is only around 30 quid on Amazon, but feels like drawing on a smartphone, and then Krita, which is free to use and open source. Currently, the spike pit is a bunch of plain coloured square sprites with barricades thrown in the bottom. This technically works as a trap pit, but it needs to look more threatening and tell the player that we don't want to fall into this. Before I do my digital sketch, I need to get an idea of the relative scale of the current pit and bring that into Krita. My usual resolution is 2000 by 2000, and sometimes I'll crop it after exporting. It's better to draw things too big and have to scale it down, because doing the opposite may cause your drawings to pixelate and distort. I've started by drawing the concept on paper. We've got the spikes facing upwards, blood splatter potentially dripping from these, and also remains of a previous victim as a warning that this is deadly to the player. So for now, I'm just going to go through and make sure this is the right shape and size before we go ahead with our rough digital sketch. For the drawing stage, it's not super important how straight or furry your lines are, because you're just doing a rough sketch. But afterwards, we will draw solid lines over them, and once that's done, you can colour it in and add some embellishments like shadows or blood. Blood being red is quite convenient, since I'm using it in my scenes to convey harm to the player, which is why enemies are that colour, and even the arrows have red feathers on the back of them. One thing that's come to light regarding the border of my assets is how inconsistent my own art is. The pit currently looks like it comes out of nowhere, so in order to solve this, I've gone ahead and added similar thick borders to the road and the grass. The reason I've gone for the border effect in all my assets is because other games like Castle Crashers or by Blackthorn Prod use thicker lines to oversimplify their characters and objects. Adding realism can look impressive and definitely be a selling point to your game, but these art styles can take a huge amount of time for a solo dev, and having to work a full-time job plus having other priorities may make you think twice if you ever want to finish your game. Right now we only have hills in the back, but I think something between here and the first layer would make the world feel more like a world. The game is still going to be 2D, but the scenes can make a huge difference to how immersed a player feels. So I've designed a map section which I've turned into a prefab, and I'm going to use that as the midway point by placing it behind all the other map sections. That way I can be sure they all join up perfectly. When trying to get the lights to work in my first video, I was trying too hard to get them to be a noticeable part of the game. Learning from this mistake and wanting to implement them back in, the background now has a darker backdrop colour, and this has assisted in making it look more like nighttime. Who knew? So now the global lighting doesn't need to be as low as I had it the first time round, and the torches can be less intense too. I didn't put any light in the middle layer because I thought the background was already busy enough. Have you noticed another bit of inconsistent art? Yeah, the clouds. Since I've been ranting about having thick lines around everything, I've gone ahead and changed the original ones, although it kinda just feels like they're following you in an unnatural way. This is easily fixed by separating the clouds from the background and putting them behind the hills instead, maybe a little higher. Thanks to those that have subscribed so far and shared their thoughts on the game. It's really helpful hearing people's ideas and feedback, and now I'm getting to a point where I feel comfortable sharing this game with others to play around with and test. I've been thinking about starting a Discord at some point in the future too, for people that want to leave feedback or even find others to play the game with. I've also mentioned this before, but I want to start making videos on other stuff too, and take a minute from this project to learn something new. But in an effort not to alienate any subscribers by getting overly detailed or too into technicals when I start sharing whatever it is I get up to, let me know what you thought about this video in the comments, and if you're new here, please feel free to do the same and subscribe.